Rock and Roll Legend at number 21 on my fantasy playlist. Another song that I've forgotten about. Robert Plant, The Hurting Kind at number 21, up one from 22. Doing a lot better on my fantasy playlist than it did on Billboard's Hot 100. Went to number 46 on Billboard's Hot 100, although it did go to number one on the mainstream rock charts. A lot of the rock and roll fans, the hard rock and roll fans, they were getting into this record. So hey, we're talking Led Zeppelin, man. One of the legendary bands, and Robert Plant on a solo career in the 1980s. And fantasy playlist, April 23rd, 1990, the album Manic Nirvana, his fourth or fifth album as a solo artist. Robert Plant really diversifying back in the 80s. Of course, he's always been a versatile artist doing those bluesy rock and roll records, particularly on Led Zeppelin's first two albums. And then you got Led Zeppelin 4, where you got the Immigrant Song, where he just really went to town with those that high range of his. The Immigrant Song in the fall of 1970, and Led Zeppelin 4, Black Dog, Misty Mountain Hop. Used to get in a Misty Mountain Hop, just rocked out on that record. And Stairway to Heaven. Houses of the Holy. There was, I believe the song was called Over the Hills, that acoustic thing. Great guitar strumming. Robert Plant, somewhat reflective, almost philosophical on that record. It was a brilliant song. 1150 WJRD played it here in Tuscaloosa back in May and June of 1973, and I really got into that record. Fell in love with that record by Led Zeppelin. But let's get into his solo career. The Hurting Kind, Manic Nirvana. Robert Plant he was fed up with all these Led Zeppelin imitators. He was just tired of hearing it. And he was really rough on them. Really rough. You might remember the song Kingdom Come, Get It On by Kingdom Come. That was in 1987, 1988. That was number one on the album charts. It was a massive rock and roll hit. And I remember reading an interview. Forgot which magazine it was in. Read it at University Library on campus back in 1988. He came down hard. Robert Plant came down. He came down like a ton of bricks on David Coverdale, lead singer of Whitesnake, for sounding a little bit too much like Led Zeppelin. And at times he did sound a little bit like Robert Plant. They just set the gold standard. They set the gold standard on, well, backstage debauchery and music and everything. Led Zeppelin. Elvis heard all the rumors about Led Zeppelin, what was going on behind the scenes with, well, the affairs and all that. And when Led Zeppelin met Elvis, I read that Elvis asked them, man, is it true about you guys, going... That's from the gang, baby. Speaking of Elvis, speaking of the sock hop years, one thing that blew me away about this album, Manic Nirvana, I just found out Robert Plant does a cover of Your Ma Said You Cried in Your Sleep Last Night, a classic sock hop hit, a forgotten 45. Kenny Dino back in late 61, early 1962. Man, I love that record. Ba da 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 da. Your Ma Said You Cried in Your Sleep Last Night. It's a very catchy record. Only got as high as number 24 on Billboard's Hot 100. Kenny Dino. But Robert Plant might have heard another version of that record in England. There was another version covered by a guy named Doug Shelton. His version went to number 29 in 1962. So Robert Plant, as a teenager in England, he might have been 13 or 14 at the time, maybe a little bit older, probably heard Doug Shelton's version of Your Ma Said You Cried in Your Sleep Last Night, but he covered that record. Man, can you believe it? I got to listen to his version of it. I missed it completely. But that's not Robert Plant. That's not his first time covering those standards from the 50s. And with the Honey Drippers, he covered Sea of Love by Phil Phillips. That was a 1958 hit, and he went all the way. He went deep down into the blues, early rock and roll field on Rockin' at Midnight. Talk about a double entendre right there. Rockin' at Midnight, originally done by Roy Brown back in the late 40s, around 1948, 49. A jump blues record, but could be considered an early rock and roll tune as well. Robert Plant, number 21, The Hurting Kind, on my fancy playlist of April 23rd, 1990.